Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Carter, and this is my final project for mobile applications. I chose to do a poker training application. I've been playing poker for well on 15 years, and there's all kinds of information out there on how to do better, make more money at it. And so my application will basically start from the very beginning where you're first dealt two cards and the choices to make right then and there to give you better overall results. And we'll just jump right into the application. So when you start out, there's a Learn tab and a Practice tab. On the Learn, you can go into Poker Basics, and this just gives you a very brief overview on poker in general and even Texas Hold'em in general. Essentially, Texas Hold'em is a poker variant where you're dealt two cards called hold cards, and then there's 5 community cards. So out of the 7 cards total, you'll make a 5-card hand. If you've never played poker before, the best hand is determined on these hand rankings. So a royal flush is the best hand you could ever get. It would be like 10 through ace of spades, and they're extremely rare. You're said to only get one in a lifetime. 4 of a kind, it would be like 4 of the same rank, plus your 5th card. So 4 aces would be 4 of a kind, or say 2 pair. You'd have a pair of 9s and a pair of 7s, so you'd have 2 pair of 9s and 7s. And each one is in here. So high card would be the least strong hand. So if there's nothing else, so if you don't have a pair, 2 pair, 3 of a kind, anything like that, then your hand will be whatever your highest card is. So you might have a queen high hand. So keeping those rankings in mind, with Texas Hold'em, you also want to be aware of the position you're in. So position is where you're seated at the table. If you're playing a game where you're dealing cards and you don't have like a set dealer, the dealer is called the button, and it's because if you have a consistent dealer like at a casino, there's going to be a dealer button that they'll put on a player to track where the dealer is. This is considered the best position in Texas Hold'em because under the gun through cutoff will have to act before you do, and then the blinds are the only 2 left act after you, and then once the flop comes out, then you actually have the best position because the small blind will have to act first, then the big blind, and then anybody else on the hand before you. So you get all the information before you have to do anything. So under this positions tab, you can look at each of the positions and what they're abbreviated. So under the gun +1 and under the gun +2, they're considered early position, and to keep your hands as strong as possible, you're advised to play the fewest amount of hands from these positions. Low jack and high jack, they're considered middle position, so you can play more hands than you would from earlier positions and less hands that you would if you were to play like on the button. The button being the best position, you can play pretty much the most amount of hands, and the reason for that is because you do get all the information from other people to know, based on if they're raising or folding. You get to see how many people are going to be in the hand with you, and how good they feel about their hands. And then the small blind and the big blind. The small blind will have to post a small blind. That's why they're called a small blind. So say for instance you're playing like $1, $2 no limit in a casino, then the small blind would post the $1, the big blind would post the $2, and then all the cards are dealt, and then the under the gun person would be the first person that would have to act. So they would look at their cards and choose if they want to fold, call, or raise. So with those things in mind, what this application will do will teach you a raise first in strategy. And what that means is if everybody in front of you has folded, or if only there's been callers in front of you where you're going to be entering the pot, you're going to be the first person to raise in, this is the strategy that's suggested, and this is based on like game theory optimal solvers. What they've done is basically run computer programs to determine best starting hands for each position based on what would be expected to play beyond there. So the concept is you win in two ways. You win with either the best hand at showdown, making 2-pair, 3-pair, or 3 of a kind, full house, whatever, and that's better than whatever any of the opponents left have, or by getting other players to fold. So the ways to accomplish that is to have the best hand, you need to start with good hands. So that means to fold out all the worst starting cards so that you have easier decisions to make once the flop and the turn and the river start to come out. And the other way we can win is by getting players to fold, and that's why we raise when you enter a pot, because nobody can fold if you're only calling, right? So when we go to look at these ranges, red will be raise, green will be call, white will be fold, and I'll show you what this kind of looks like. It'll make more sense in a second. And then the cards will be represented by like an ace, like ace king would be AK. If it's suited, it'll have an S to the side. If it's offsuit, it'll have an O to the side. So suited cards simply means both the cards are hearts or spades or diamonds, whereas offsuit means you would have like a club and a diamond or a heart and a spade kind of thing. So so let's go and look at the strategy. So each position will have a strategy specifically for raising first in. So under the gun is the first person to act, right? So looking at this this range, this is called a card range. So you've got your pocket pairs kind of on the diagonal. So you've got pocket aces, pocket kings, queens, all the way down to pocket twos. And then across this top right quadrant are going to be all your suited cards. So everything in this top right is like ace jack suited or queen 6 suited or 8-3 suited, right? And then everything in the bottom left is going to be all your offsuit. So ace of clubs, 10 of diamonds is ace 10 offsuit, or jack of hearts, 5 of clubs is jack 5 offsuit. So looking at this will tell you kind of what hands to play, and you'll notice that everything in white is a fold, everything in red is a raise, and everything in green is a call, and there's no green because you can't get anybody to fold if you're only calling. So under the gun is the tightest range you'll have, so it only recommends raising with 6s or better, 6s through aces. All these cards right here make a suited royal flush draw, right? So ace 10 is ace 10 suited, king 10 suited, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, and everything above that, all these cards, they form the royal flush. So that's why they're in the range. Ace 9 suited and ace 5 suited are in there because they're the stronger of the ace 9 or the ace X suited cards, as in 9's better than 8, 7, 6, and the reason a 5 is in here versus 8, 7, 6 is that you can also make a straight from ace to 5. So if you had by the end of the hand you had ace 2, 3, 4, 5, you have a straight, and a straight is a strong hand. That's why ace 5 suited's in there versus ace 8 suited kind of thing. And then as you get further in, like low jack is considered middle position, all of a sudden you can open up, you can raise starting with pocket 4s. You can even play these things called suited connectors, 6-5 suited, 7-6 suited, all the way up. Now all of a sudden, king 9, queen 9 suited, 10-9 suited open up. All of your ace suited cards, so ace X suited, you can play any of them. And your offsuit cards, these, you notice that there's more suited cards that it's recommended to play versus offsuit, because suited cards it's easier to make a flush with. Flush is a very strong hand. And that's kind of the theme that you'll see as you look at more and more of these ranges, right? Now you get to the button, and I said before that button's the best position to have because you get to have all this information. So where we were, you know, in under the gun, only playing ace 9 suited plus, sixes plus, ace jack offsuit plus, right? Now all of a sudden we can play everything to queen 2 suited, any pocket pair, you know, deuces plus, suited connectors as low as 5-3 suited and 4-3 suited that you wouldn't think would be good to play, but with 5 people folding in front of you and you're the first person into the pot, you've only got the small blind and the big blind left. You can play a lot of cards and still be in good shape post flop. So so once you get into the small blind, this is considered one of the worst positions. This is because after the flop comes out, you have the worst position. You are the first person to act, so you get no information on anybody else. This range right here shows that if you're raising first in, right, so that means everybody through the button have folded, so it's only going to be you and the big blind in this hand if you're going to continue. And this is the first time you're going to see calls as an opening range. So, you know, it says to raise anything from 8s to queens, ace 10 to ace king, and then you see weird things like calling 2s through 7s or pocket aces or pocket kings. This has something to do with making it more difficult for you to give away information. So as you get like deeper and deeper into poker, if you call with aces and 2s, essentially what happens is the big blind would never know when you're just calling if you're calling with something like king 6 offsuit or you're calling with aces, right? The very best starting hand. Same thing why these all these cards are raises as well. When you raise with something like queen 3 offsuit, it's a pretty bad hand, right? But they don't know if you're raising with ace king suited, which is a very strong hand, or queen 3 offsuit, which is a very horrible hand. So this just gives your range more complexity. It makes it hard for people to read you based on what you're raising and what you're folding with, or raising calling with. Now, once you learn these ranges, this application is meant to like instill these ranges in your head so that you're not sitting there looking at a sheet going, oh, I'm in the button and now I've got queen 3 offsuit, what do I need to do? Well, you need to practice that. And yes, you can go to the casino or you can go play home poker games or play poker online and learn. But if you want to learn and instill these things real fast, this is kind of what this program will do. So this is all, you know, a raising first in. So everyone folds around to you. You are under the gun +1 position. What action do you take? So you see a 5 of diamonds and 9 of spades. So our options are fold, call, or raise, right? So this is a pretty poor hand, so we're going to fold. All right, that was correct. Now everybody folds around to you. Now in the hijack position, so you're in the middle position, and what actions you take with queen of spades, 10 of diamonds, which is queen 10 offsuit. You think it's a fold, call, or raise? I think it's actually a fold. So you might think that queen 10 offsuit's a good hand, but with more people still to act, you still have the cutoff, the button, the small blind, and the big blind. You're going to get into trouble once the flop actually comes out, and that's what the strategy is good for, is basically making sure you have good hands to start with so that your decisions are easier to make post flop. So under the gun +1, you see queen of diamonds, seven of diamonds. Let's say we raise that. That's actually not correct. So in that position, we would actually fold queen seven of diamonds, queen seven suited. So it's just that we study more. And as you work your way through this, you're gonna start to get the hang of it. So cutoff position, if everybody folds around to you, queen six offsuit, that's probably a fold. That's correct. Now the button gets to play a whole lot more hands. So ace three offsuit, what do you think we would do? Fold, call, or raise? And knowing that call would be, you don't really want to call because you want to entice people to fold. So let's say we raise this. Yep, that's correct. So and what this will randomly select cards and randomly select a position. The only position that'll actually never come up in this specific application is the big blind, because since this is a raise first in, that means nobody else is raising. Basically everybody's folding around to you. If everybody folds around to you and you're in the big blind, then that just means you have nobody to play against and you just take down the pot immediately. So we'll take a look at the program, and I'll show you some of the things that I struggled with. Is to get the cards to display, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to do images, and that was actually what I was going to do at first, was to find images of each card and then put them like in a JSON file to pull out later. But what I found, did not realize it was a thing, was there are Unicodes for playing cards. So in let's see here. So what you can do is, this is struggling. Once I figured out what the code was, I basically send my card string to figure out what the code would be, and then I send it back to basically dynamically create those cards, and they're just all already in there because they're all Unicode. So I thought that was very interesting. It saved a lot of time trying to, instead of like making each card or making a like a bitmap of every playing card and having to figure out how to grab each one. This made it real nice. So all of the things in the practice, these are all dynamically created, as far as it'll randomly choose two cards out of a deck. It'll randomly choose a position, so it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to get all kinds of different cards every single time it comes through, right? And you're going to get that immediate feedback on if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, right? Pocket sevens, low jack, let's raise that. The other thing that I was looking at was where the ranges are. I thought about using a collection view and dynamically pulling in what's a raise, a call, and a fold on that specific screen, but that started to turn into a very difficult endeavor, and that would be the strategy right here, is looking at these ranges. I thought about doing a collection view and then using the JSON files that I've got all the actual ranges in, where it pulls it in for the practice, being able to change the colors based on what it should be. I ended up just using pictures for all of these ranges, and it worked out pretty well. But this is only one set of ranges, and this is for a very specific event, like when everybody folds around to you, or only callers are before you. This doesn't take into account people raising before you and what you should do. So that is something that I would do in the future, would make this dynamic. I wouldn't use still images. I would make these dynamic, because there's an infinite amount of infinite is probably much, but there's a ton of different ranges to use for very specific events. I used a very standard cash game, 100 big blind effective stack range strategy, opening range strategy. But this does nothing for, okay, you raised and then somebody else raised right behind you. Now what do you do? Do you fold, call, or raise that? So it can get very, very detailed very quick, and I guess that's the good thing about this program too, is that it has plenty of room to progress. There's plenty of different scenarios that you could practice, and this is essentially the very beginnings of it. This is the when you're first dealt cards, where are you sitting, and choose to even play or not to play kind of thing. So but yeah, so there's plenty more to do with that, and I have been using this to try to get better at my openings, because being able to practice just constantly is a whole lot better than, you know, having to go down to the casino and wait for each hand to be dealt. You're, you know, 5 minutes between getting dealt other cards, so it can get really slow. But if you want to instill this information in your head pretty quick, this is probably the you know, a good way to do it. But that is pretty much the entire program. So if you guys have any questions or anything for me, just please let me know. Thanks.